Hello, my name is Putkonen. Thank you for joining me. Today's topic is how to deal with anxiety. This question has been posed to me several times, and I've never been quite sure how to start it or end it. And so we're going to meander a bit here and probably get more and more into the non-dual view as we go. But I'll start with early on. Early on in my life, personality-wise, I've always been an introvert and had a difficult time looking into people's eyes, let alone speak in front of a class. That was my dread. That was my biggest source of anxiety and misery, was when I had to do a presentation in front of the class. I knew this was limiting and inhibiting living freely. And so over the years in school, I was deliberately looking into people's eyes until I just became accustomed to it. Ignoring the mental dialogue and the story going on and all the fears and worries, and you just do it anyway. Over and over again until you get used to it. And I decided to kind of solve my problem being in front of crowds the same way. I'd always been interested in sleight of hand and in magic, and so when I had graduated college and I was living in a bigger city finally, they had festivals like the Renaissance Festival and things like that. I developed a full routine, a sleight of hand show, mostly around rope magic. And I proceeded to perform in front of crowds. Obviously, it was uncomfortable. You felt embarrassed. You're worried about how they're going to judge you. There is the whole slew of worries, anxieties, and fears. But I did it anyway, and I did it over and over and over again. And after doing this a couple of years, getting up and doing my routine in front of a crowd didn't bother me at all. It was normal. It was something I had grown accustomed to. And so, be it social anxiety or any other anxiety, a lot of times it's just a matter of facing your fear and going through it over and over and over again until you no longer have a problem with it, because now you're used to it. That's one way of dealing with anxiety. I did actually the same thing with my fear of heights, because I had, when I was really young, I didn't have really much of a fear of heights, but I jumped off of something or got injured, and slowly a fear of heights began to build. And by my teens, I was getting vertigo not that far off the ground, and I knew this was going to be an issue because I planned on living in a big city, and I knew I was going to be in skyscrapers, and I knew I didn't want to be avoiding height. And I remember my parents and me and my sister were on a trip. We were in the Dells, the Wisconsin Dells. And at the time they had, I know bungee jumping was a bit more of a fad then, and they actually had a bungee jumping area. And I begged my mom to let me go. And so she paid for me and my sister to go. And so, nothing gets you over the fear of heights like climbing up 80 feet off the ground and then voluntarily leaping off a platform. And, heights and vertigo really never hit me again. So there is quite a bit to be said in becoming familiar with that which you're anxious about, that which you fear. If you face it and work with it over and over and over again, it fades because you simply get used to it. It becomes a known factor. And really, we don't fear the unknown. If we know it really well, we don't fear it. Think of people who handle snakes. They have no fear of snakes. Some might have had a fear of snakes at the beginning, but as they, start handling non-poisonous snakes and get used to it, eventually they have no fear of snakes, and they can even start handling poisonous snakes. And of course, if you were to have anxiety or fear in any way, because animals are somewhat sensitive and receptive to emotions around them, your fear will get them on edge, and you're more likely to get bitten, which is dangerous with a poisonous snake. And so, like a snake handler, you keep working with it over and over and over again until it doesn't bother you anymore. Firefighters are the same way. Firefighters cannot fear fire. And so you have to become very comfortable with fire. No firefighter fears fire. No snake handler fears snakes, because they know enough about what they're working with to no longer fear it. And so that's how we can kind of overcome anxiety. Now, I've also talked about delving into the anxiety or suffering of any kind to gain a better, deeper understanding of it, because the anxiety is arising from misconceptions, beliefs, and ignorance that we have. And so as we delve into our own misconceptions and beliefs that are causing this to arise, and we start seeing what the roots of the anxiety are, what the real causes are, there's some belief, and sometimes it's coming to terms with reality as well, because maybe there's a fear that you're being judged by others. Well, guess what? You are being judged by others. And worrying about it isn't going to influence their judgment one way or another other than negatively. Because when you see someone in front of a crowd, per se, the one that's anxious and nervous versus the one that is not anxious and confident, which one has the better impression? And so you're being judged if you're in front of a crowd. Either way, it doesn't matter. It's an unfounded fear and worry because you are being judged. But it doesn't matter. What other people think really doesn't matter. But the funny thing is also, when you're able to give that up and act more confidently, the impression, the judgment, it tends to be more positive. And so, sometimes it's coming to terms with reality. But like I said earlier, it's delving into the misconceptions and the beliefs as well. If you are anxious, well, where do you feel it in the body, first of all? It's good to get a kinesthetic, tactile sensation, and keep paying attention to that. Where do you feel it in the body? And then when you're kind of focused on or attending to that feeling, delve into the anxiety and go, where is this coming from? What is its source? Where did I first feel it? Because science has said, some scientists I've read had said that newborns only have two fears: loud noises and falling. And I'm thinking those may not even necessarily be fears, because what happens when there's a loud noise? The baby cries. Well, it could be just the baby doesn't simply like loud noises. No one likes loud noises. A loud noise out of nowhere when it's quiet startles you. It's not necessarily fear. It's just you weren't prepared for it. And so I think sometimes babies are just disliking loud noises as opposed to fearing them. And then for falling, that is quickly overcome, because how many videos or photos have you seen of somebody raising and lowering their child or throwing him in the air as a toddler and then catching him again? We soon get over the fear of falling and end up enjoying the feeling. And how does that happen? Because we become familiar with it. But if a baby is born with so few fears, the anxiety is not inborn. You were not born with this anxiety. It was developed, it was grown, there is some seed from which it sprouted. And so as you're delving into the misconceptions and beliefs, you're delving into the seed. You're looking for the seed. Where did this come from? And you're trying to root out the seed, which could be just a matter of bringing unconscious conditioning into the conscious mind, where it's got to rectify itself. Or you're bringing something forward, realizing, well, that's always the case regardless, and just coming to terms with it. But there's potentially other avenues as well. But there is this delving into the root, the seed of the suffering, be it anxiety, and seeing where this came from. What is the cause? Because with a change of understanding, this is what's happening, is you're delving into it to shed light, to gain an understanding. Because with understanding, what happens will change, because all action and reaction arise from our understanding, or misunderstanding as the case may be. And so to change our understanding then changes our reaction and action. And so there is this delving into anxiety that may help. Now, in a sense of non-duality, both of these are kind of seen as endless wells, because you can delve into every fear, anxiety you have, and there always seems to be another one. So, I mean, in the most severe ones, it might be worth delving into to resolve them a little bit. But ultimately, in non-duality, it's delving into this me. You need to delve into this me that is worried about being embarrassed, that's worried about offending, or anything else when it comes to social anxiety, or any other anxieties, being it snakes or heights or whatever, crowds. This me is the source and center of it as well. This idea of me. Fear arises when an other is seen. An other arises when me arises. And so, in non-duality, no me, no fear, no anxiety. If you delve into the me, what you feel and think yourself to be, and see you are not that, and keep shedding away everything that you think you are, it creates a opportunity to see what is as it is, unclouded, unobscured by what you think you are. And in that way, you're basically trying to see through the illusion of me. Because awakening, enlightenment, is a shattering of the illusion of me. And with this, a lot of other anxiety naturally falls away with it. Because all anxiety, all fear is founded upon, built upon this me. So it's very much worth delving into that as the root and source as well. I mean, yeah, you can delve into a specific anxiety, a specific worry, and you might be able to lessen or remove that one, and then you have to move on to the next one. However, if the illusory me is shattered, much or all falls away on its own. And you don't have to deal on a case-by-case scenario that may go on unending. And so in summary, there's basically kind of self-examination, self-investigation, looking at this me. There is also inquiring, investigating, questioning the roots of the suffering, this in this instance being anxiety. That is another way, a little less direct. And then the third is simply to confront, face, and get exposed to it over and over and over again until it's no longer an issue. And so those are, I would say, the 3 ways I would suggest for overcoming anxiety. But if you have any questions, comments, please post below. And as always, thank you much.